She's funny, she's smart, she craves chocolate every day, and she is the Greek goddess of comedy. Here is your host, Ellen Karis.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Karis's Comedy Corner. My name is Ellen Karis, and you are listening to the guest edition of Karis's Comedy Corner. I am very, very excited today. I have two very special guests, but before we get to them, you know, we always have to thank our sponsor. Our sponsor is Select Flex. What is it? It's an orthotic. What's an orthotic? You put it in your shoe. It's also called an insert. Why do you need it? Your entire body needs it. Everything starts from the feet and works its way up. They're good for all of your support, your legs, your knees, your back, your hips. And what is the genius about this orthotic is that there is an adjustability in the arch where you can adjust the arch firm, or extra firm, depending on what your needs are. Go to their website, selectflex.com, selectflex.com. There's a 30-second video that shows you how it works. I have them in all of my shoes, my Uggs, my sneakers, my golf shoes. That's a little hint to the guest that we have coming up in a second. It's a fantastic product. I always say it's the best invention since suitcase on wheels. For Karis Comedy Corner listeners, there is a 25% discount. If you type in the code FAMILY25, FAMILY 25, you'll get a 25% discount. And check them out. They've absolutely changed my life. So we thank them also for their support. Get it? All right. I wrote that copy. So I am very excited because I went to go see this fabulous off-Broadway show called Cheese Fries and Froot Loops. That's right. I liked it from the title because it was so it was so different. And it was brought to me by my manager, Bob Bloom, who we've had on the show, who's just a terrific guy, and he's one of the producers. And I got an invite, and I went a couple of weeks ago, and I loved it. It was fantastic. The actor that wrote it is Chris Fuller, and he is here today with his director, Mark Graham, and we are going to talk about the show, how it came about. It's so interesting. I'm going to let them talk about it, because I'm not going to do it justice. I was mesmerized for 70, 80 minutes. And it's a story that has so much heart. It addresses mental health, and it has golf. So without further ado, please allow me to introduce my guests, Chris Fuller and Mark Graham. Thank you so much. I'm sorry we don't have a live audience, but here are the applause. First of all, Chris, I got to meet you for a couple seconds, and Chris also wrote an adorable children's book, Good Night Golf, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But your play, I'm still stunned when I think about it. It's raw, it's autobiographical. It's so raw. You're so vulnerable on stage. You're funny. It's sad, it's alarming, it's goofy. I mean, there's so much to it. And Mark, you directed it so brilliantly. So Chris, just tell everybody first a little bit, like you grew up in Connecticut, where you came from, and morphing into golf at a very, very young age, and then ultimately wanting to put all of this down on paper.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having us.
Yes.
So I actually moved out to Arizona when I was in middle school, and I developed golf out there. And pretty much I played golf when I graduated from high school. I grew up in Weston, Connecticut, but I would go out to Arizona to play golf, and we bought a house there. So I lived out there, and so when I was done with college, I wanted to play professional golf, and it's like the hardest sport to get into and try to succeed. So I did that for like a long time, 15, 16 years. And then one tournament I played here in New York, in Queens, I just broke down, and I'm like, I besides golf, I didn't have a backup career at all. So my mom was like, oh, well, I kind of was digging around with like writing the story and writing the play. It took me 2 years. So I wrote that, and my mom, with her help. And I remember I broke down, I'm kind of like rambling, but I remember playing a course in New York City, and I quit, and I was like, what am I going to do? And I just broke down, and I just started crying and screaming. And it's like, I was like, I didn't know how I was going to make money and all this stuff. And kind of it was just kind of just like, what's that word? Like,
well, I don't know what word. I can my part of this is that I've known Chris from when he was very young. I knew his mother. I directed his mother in a play that she wrote about her visitation with Betty Davis, who stayed at her house for 30 days. But I've known Chris since he was 4 or 5 years old. But he contacted me and he said, I have this play I've written, this 2-person play, and I want to be in it, and I want to be able to do it. Mm-hmm. And this was over a year ago, I think we could say, when he gave me, or more than a year ago. I live in Florida now, and I said, well, we'll do it through Zoom. I had directed a number of stage readings for the National Arts Club and for other places with actors all over the place. And we were able to pull it off because of the pandemic. And I said, well, let's start doing this. I will meet with you 2 hours every other night, and we'll start doing pieces of the play. And the key here is Chris is not an actor. He has not acted before. It's his life story. So he is to help him tell this story. When I read what he wrote, I got chills. It was just fascinating, and things I knew and things I didn't know. And also it was put together in kind of a conversational like, talking to your best friends and telling these great stories that you'd have at a cocktail party or with friends, and you're saying, did you believe this happened? And then this happened. And then it was all connected by his discussion and his very even-tempered description of what it's like to have that mental illness and how it affects you. And so we literally 3 times a week for 2 hours plus, we would meet and go through the play until we got half the play done. And then we got them together and we had an audience come and look at it for the first time. And he performed it for the first time in his living room. And we also brought in an acting coach. I have a good friend, an actor who is a golfer fanatic, John O'Hearn, who was able to come in here and work with him really on scene work and to get the essences of what you have to do, because he was truly a theater virgin, in this way. He watched his mother in plays, but that's about it. And he had to learn the techniques of the stage as well. But he wrote something that was very theatrical. And that was the fun thing to work on and to help. I work with playwrights developing their plays, and he really developed this in a kind of logical way, and we would discuss things to add or subtract, and we came up with this great piece, which we're really excited about. We just finished rehearsal today, and we're going to perform it tonight here in Southport, which is near Westport, and then we will bring it into New York to the Solo United Festival on Theater Row.
So you're at the Unity Theater in Southport, Connecticut tonight.
No, the Unity Theater was where we were one of the other times. That's in Norway. Okay. This is a salon in Southport, Connecticut, that we're performing it for a smaller audience, probably 25 people.
That's tonight, and that's October 11th. And then tomorrow, you are part of a very prestigious festival in New York City called the United Solo Festival, where they select you.
They selected us, and that was we submitted it, and I said, we'll try. I can't tell you something's going to happen or not. And then when we got selected, that was extraordinary. So we've been working very closely to get the show tighter. We have a video before it. I don't think you've seen that portion of the show. And we're really pleased with the way show his position.
And that's in New York City on Theater Row, but you can go to the website United Solo Theater and get.
There are a few tickets left for this performance on the 12th, but there'll be others. We don't have those dates yet.
Okay. And then you have a website.
Cheese fries and fruitloops.com.
So you can find out. You have to go see this, but
You
we
have
have
to
a lot to cover. Okay, so when I was watching, Chris, I'm going to tell you right. Even I'm looking at you now, like you really have grabbed my heart. You were so vulnerable, and when you talked about your childhood, your dad was a lot older than you. Was your father a writer? Was
Yeah.
that an author, right?
Yeah.
Right. And he published books. He was an
Yep.
author. You lived in Westport, Connecticut, near Martha Stewart, which is
Right.
The basis for the children's book.
Right.
And children's book. And your mom was an artist, and your dad passed when you were very young.
Yes.
And one of the things that really stuck out in me, so many things, but in the play, you talked about how you were not great in school at all, and you're really having problems with all of your subjects. And your father saw your hand-eye coordination and how great that was. And how did that part evolve? And let me just say this as someone that is around a lot of men that love golf, including my husband, that is the dream for fathers that golf. That is the dream, to have their son be a good golfer. I've seen it sort of time and time again. And actually, we have a friend. One of his sons, he has two sons, but one is a really, really great golfer. So he's sort of laser focused on that. But what did it happen with you? Was your dad a golfer, or
not really? He actually wasn't. We used to play baseball in the backyard, and then like when I was 5, I went to this driving range right by Danbury, Route 7. Called now it's called the Golf Performance Center, but it used to be called Belmont's Driving Range. And he would bring me there, and he's like, "Wow, you have he's like, you have a good swing." It's like, I don't. And then the pro, like looked at my swing, and he pretty much then just like would take me there. Every weekend we would go. Along my stepdad farther, when my father passed, then I really started getting, but I would go like, every Saturday with him. But he liked hockey, football, baseball. He liked all the sports, tennis.
So he was thrilled but you really excelled. I mean, and again, people don't know, and I have played golf, and I use the term loosely. And if I had more time, I would love to get into it. And I live in New York City, and you really have to be, close to the golf course. But it is one of the most intense focus, and people don't understand. You're using every part of your body.
Yes, you are.
Every part, and everything has to be synchronized so that you can just have contact with the ball and the club.
Yeah.
So, at its most basic level. And then there's all the measurements. But golf is also a lot about math, because it's about distance and how much more yardage. So you have a math aptitude, even though maybe math, in school math wasn't great, but clearly you have to understand math to be able to play golf.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
So here you're.
Well, I'll just say something really quickly.
Yes, please.
Not to cut you off, but
Mm-hmm.
in my family, it was more like it was shocked that I was a good golfer, because my brothers were not very athletic. Like my brother played. My brother Jeff, he's in the play. He played basketball, like competitive basketball. Until he was like, they're older, so until he was like 60, and but he's a professional musician. He plays the bass, and I tried piano and bass and drums and guitar. I was never good at that. It was always basketball, baseball, golf, football.
So as you went along, when did you started to feel that emotionally, you weren't processing things maybe the way everybody else was, or you would just take, you're very sensitive person, which sometimes, this is just my opinion, but sometimes I think when we talk about mental health, I think that there is also just an element of things that are just in people that they just pick up on and then they react to.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean that's a condition. That's just mean that's like how you're wired.
Right.
So you've got that in you. But when did it sort of start to become impede on your everyday life?
When I when I wanted to play professional golf, it's in the play.
Mm-hmm.
I started having suicidal thoughts, and I know a couple. I know this other guy who has schizophrenia, and he plays professional golf, and it's a tough sport, like to try to take it and try to make money, and you're not gonna be right. Like you're not gonna just like, oh, what a great career, this is gonna be great, and just relax. It's very tough.
There's a lot of touring. There's a lot of traveling.
Yeah.
You have to make the cut.
Yeah.
So you're always competing just to compete.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's fascinating to me that, again, one of the most difficult sports, and let me just highlight that professional athletes, football players, basketball players, Michael Jordan, great example, they all play golf. And when they retire from their full-time sport, they all play golf.
Yeah, they do.
So it's hard just to do it, and then it's hard to even if you're good at it, and you don't have sensitivities, just to try to do it.
Right.
So I just find it fascinating that it's like with sort of being able, the way you process things and going into, it's like being an astronaut, it's like going into, like in the sports world, going into one of the hardest things. But you talk about that, and you talk about some tournaments and sort of like, some of the things that happen along the way. You also got professional help and on some very intense levels. And you talk about that, which I thought was really, really fascinating. And then later on, you got married, right? You got married, and you talked about your wife, and so how was that with everything going on? So now you've added, another person into the picture.
Right. No, that was in 2011. So it says I'm actually not married anymore. It says in the play that I'm now divorced. No, she's I talk to her all the time though. She's really helps me out. So
still friends.
Yeah, exactly. No, beyond friends. Yeah. So she was a big factor. She's in the play too. So
right. I know. No, I remember. And I remember that you had said that you were divorced, and you have some. So I'm a stand-up comic, so I'm always looking for the joke. And you have a very interesting sense of humor. It's like, when I was sitting there, I'm like, does he know how funny that is? Like, you have but it comes from your heart. I mean, the best comedy is, when it's organic and it's not forced and they're trying to be somebody. Like, you're not trying to be anybody. You're you. This is your story. It's got all of these unique elements in it. So here we are, you found Mark, or you knew each other, but you found each other to do this project. I was there that night. I don't know. I know you've had a bit of a run with it. So how are you feeling now? I mean, you are an actor. You're an actor, whether you realize it or not. You are an actor. You're putting up a performance, and it is just you.
Nobody else.
Nobody to bounce it off of. So how are you feeling? How's this new journey for you?
I'm not gonna lie, it's tiring. It's exhausting, but when the people come up, and at the end, it's worth it. At the end of the show, they come up. That's what I live for.
He's had to learn a lot of things. Like he was really brilliant the other day when he did it, and I said, why are you so good today? And he says, maybe because I took a nap before I did the You don't live a full day and you think you're going to perform this one person show when you've done 8 hours of work and everything else. You need to be really truly focused on this. And he's learned it. He's learned where his energies come from, how to sustain that through, we wanted them 45 minutes, they're probably 50-minute, 50-minute acts. We're just looking at where we can tighten it up. But that's a lot of time, as you know, as a stand-up comic but he's beyond the a comic. He's there telling his story and exploring for himself that whole story and what does it mean. And we discovered so many great things that he wrote that he probably didn't even realize that he wrote into it, about his father's involvement in it, and just getting notes and things that sort of all pay off and work together. We're introducing a new introduction, a new beginning of the play tonight, as well as an ending that sort of connects things and explains the show. People said, well, why are you doing it? And it's probably self-evident, we felt, but he sets it up in the beginning and talks about what this is and why he is doing it. And I didn't want it to be a downer, but we wanted to place it so that there was no question. He wasn't making fun of it. He was telling you, this is really my life.
So, Chris, are there any things in the play that, and you don't have to say what they are, but are there things that you wanted to put in, but you decided not to, whether it was you didn't want to hurt anybody, or you just were like, I'm just doing this and whatever I feel needs to be in there will be in there?
I don't think he edited anything out. In fact, I might have wanted to a couple of times myself, but I think he just went, Chris is this, he tells the truth. He's transparent. It is what his story is, and that's what we're doing, and he's sharing it with you and hoping that it will give some insight to people about what the mental illness is and how it affects people, and maybe adjust some attitudes towards that. I think that's the best we can do in a one-person show.
So it's incredibly entertaining. It takes you on a journey. It does everything that a show should do, touch you, but the element of mental health. So, Chris, have people come to you after the show? Their story? Have you gotten emails? Like, what's been that? Because that's great, and you have a great message, and it's educational.
I get bombardment. What's the word? Bombardment. Yeah, they rush me after in New York. I had like 20 people come up to me and say, "Oh my God, you are amazing! Like, you're so, transparent and so honest and vulnerable." So I have a lot of people come up
and those are actors. Those are actors.
Yeah, they're actors
and they come up to me and say, "We want to tell our story. Can you help me write my story?" I said, "Well, you got to start doing it. What is that story going to be?
Right.
Why are you telling that story?" But a lot of actors were there at the performance you saw, and they were all envious of this person up there who was not the actor, but put together his show. This is what we tell every actor who's starting out, do your own show, find your own piece.
But also like they would come, non-actors would come up to me, just everybody.
But what about the mental health issue? Like, did people come over you and go, "Oh, I also
a lot
episodes," and
or they'll be like, "Oh, my daughter's cousin's boyfriend has or whatever." So
it was unusual to be introduced by. There were some mothers with their daughter who introduced them. I'd like you to meet my daughter. She was lovely. She says she also is bipolar. It's like, how do you respond to that? I don't know. Oh, well, that's very interesting. And this person was creating a music dance piece.
Wait, was she trying to fix Chris up with her daughter?
That was part of it.
Right, that's what I'm getting.
Telephone numbers were left. That's right.
So you don't have to do any online dating, Chris, because Women find you attractive in the audience, and you already told your story, so you're not holding anything back. So it's not like you have to go on 22 dates before you open up to them. You've already opened up, so I think it's perfect. So tell us, tell us what's the future? So where are we going with this? Where would we like to go with this? And will there be more after this? I mean, more acting work, because you've clearly showed your acting chops.
Well, that's very interesting. There's been some interest in him as a performer, as an actor, so that he is transformed into that, even though he didn't realize he was transforming into that as he's learned what the art is. But also we're very interesting. We're going to be doing this again, I think in November, but we're going to integrate it with music. Okay. Chris, one of Chris's brothers, is a musician and a bass player. And we're trying to see how we could integrate the music with the piece. And he came to see the show as well, not the performance you saw, but we've been talking about that. And so maybe in November, we might do a little more integration with live music, which would be kind of exciting for us with the piece. But we do, and we have an interest of people to take it, and perform it. We just need to have the right, it's got to make sense. It's simple. We have a simple show, one-person show, but we now have a film with it. There's video. We're also creating a little documentary of the development of the piece, which is something I've always wanted to do on a play. J.D. Clayton has been around. He's even videotaping this interview. So he's followed us from the beginning. So we have some really great, right from the early stages of the development of the piece. And maybe we'll have an interesting documentary of the development of a play, this play. So those are kind of interesting. We've been offered to take it to country clubs, which we can do. We're not sure if that's the answer, but we're going to explore all those things, until we find the kind of right balance for the show. It's a little hybrid, it's not where everybody's going to see. I don't know if it's going to go right to off Broadway. We want to try it out in all variations because it's flexible, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I love theater in a black box, as we call it. I just love it. I mean, and by the way, I left as an actor inspired as well. Mark, I didn't get to meet you, so I didn't get to tell you about the story the play that I want you to do.
Gotcha. All right.
But I just love that. Broadway's great. It's all great. Everybody on there is talented. But I tell people too, especially like when I go out of town, they're like, oh, we're going to go to New York, and what would we see abroad? We want to go see, whatever was on. Mean Girls, whatever. I go, all great. But do yourself a favor and find some of the smaller plays, because you're going to see some really good, heartfelt things that you're not going to really see on Broadway. And, if it's a cost, situation, it's believe me, you're going to get your return on equity, 52 times over. So I just love it. I just love it in that atmosphere. Chris, do you find that the audience is different every night, every time you perform it?
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah.
Go ahead.
The first night in Fairfield was a big audience in May, and then a lot of the people from Fairfield came to Westport. But then after Westport, when it was in Norwalk and New York, it was different audience. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a different energy. I mean, as a comic, I could do the same joke and it'll get a great laugh. And then that same joke on the 10 o'clock show may just get a chuckle, so.
And actually, that's what happened. Like, I don't know if I told you or my mom, I was like, well, I didn't get really a whole lot of laughs in New York, but no one laughed. So that was a good thing.
You got smiles, and also it's
because I got a lot of laughs in Fairfield. I got like 200 and all.
And it's interesting because the show is based here in Fairfield County. It mentions Martha Stewart and Benny Davis and other people
yes.
that are homed here. and kind of resonate here. But I also think when we performed it in each market, the audience has to discover him, understand what the piece is about, and then once they're settled in, they laugh through the second act and through everything. They're there.
And the title is incredible, and we find out why it's the title when we see the show. If you want to tell us.
Well, I also want to say, if you're searching it, it's Froot Loops, but it's Froot Loops like it's on the box of cereal, F-R-O-O-T.
Right.
People look up F-R-U-I-T and then they can't find it. So
right, that's right. That's correct. Because I went to follow you on Instagram, and that's exactly what I did. So before we wrap up, Good Night Golf was a children's book that you wrote. It is so adorable. It's so cute. I actually wrote.
Oh, I remember. Okay, yeah, I signed that for you.
You did sign it for me.
Yeah,
I love it so. It was so cute. So what made you do this? And I actually have a children's book also. It's about being I'm Greek. It's about being a godparent in the Orthodox Christian faith. I'm a Sunday school teacher. Anyway, it's a long story, but I know how this looks super easy. This takes a long time. You got to get the illustration right. It's got to match the copy. So what made you decide to do this?
I actually went to a golf school after I graduated college. It was like one of those technical ones called the Golf Academy of America. I was bored in class, and I was looking at Goodnight Moon, and I was like, well, I'm wondering like what I could do. Like I would like to do a parody of this book. And I was just brainstorming, and pretty much I wrote the book like the 2 years I was there. And I showed it. My mom's she's an author. So
he's the son of two authors. So he's going to write. He's going to write no matter what.
So,
and he's creative, and Chris is creative all over the place.
So I gave my mom like all like the golf terms and all that, and she helped me write it. And but it was pretty much me. But it took like 2 years, 3 years.
And then find the right illustrator too.
And then find the illustrator. Yeah.
Good Night Golf. It's an adorable children's book. That is Martha Stewart.
Martha Stewart's creeping in the window. Yeah.
In the window. It's very cute for a nice little bedtime book. You guys, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it, Chris. I want to come and see the show again. You were fantastic. And what's going to be interesting about following you is like, I saw the show last month. And then when I come back to see it again, even if it's in 6 months or in a year, the essence of the story will be the same, but
right.
There'll be things that'll different. That's again what I love about things like this, because there's room for for it to evolve. And you guys have creative control, and it's it's going to be really great to see. And then you're going to add, like you said, you're already adding things, and I only saw it 4 weeks ago. So it's going to be interesting when I come back to see it again, to see how it evolved. But I highly, highly, highly recommend everybody to search Cheese Fries and Froot Loops, F-R-O-O-T, or put in Chris Fuller's name, F-U-L-L-E-R. It's a fantastic show. They will be tonight in, Southport, Connecticut, did you say?
Yes.
In Southport, Connecticut, October 11th. And then tomorrow and some other dates, please go to the website for United Solo Festival, October 12th. You're going to be at, and where is it? Where's tomorrow night show?
Theater Row. It's on Theater Row, and it's one of the, they assign us a theater. I don't know if it has a name.
You just go to the, I've been to the festival, and it's fantastic. And if you can't catch those shows, you'll catch it someplace. Follow them. Follow
You'll
on
hear from us. We're going to be, we'll be around.
Coming to a movie screen near you, y'all.
This is going to be a movie. I could totally see this being a movie. Well,
that's an interesting one. That's an interesting story.
I could totally see it. And
So
you
who
have
does
to play
Chris want to-
yourself.
Who does Chris want to play himself? That's what he's got to figure that
Chris
out.
will play. Chris has to play himself.
Hopefully someone will play me. I'll be golfing.
Right. So the whole point is to like be successful so you can golf, right? Because that's what my husband says. My husband says this is all about like playing golf at the, at the end. Like, that's all that it is. So, thank you, Mark and Mark Graham. Thank you so much. You're a wonderful director. I'm so impressed, and thanks for taking the time. And we're going to put this, post this right up so people can know about it. And if they want to go tomorrow night, they'll be able to go see it. So thank you guys again.
Thank you.
Break a leg. Break a leg. Take care.
Thank you.